Welcome to the SMIS training video series. In this lesson, we will go through the SMIS location section on simplified sub-event forms, where to find it, and the various fields that are housed within the section. So let's begin. The location section on simplified SMIS forms can be found directly below the safety event section. You can see this clearly on the tree view to the left. All simplified SMIS forms now only have one location section, meaning that you don't need to add a second location section if you need to add a prior sub-event to the main form. The reason for this is to speed up the time it takes you to enter an event and to reduce the complexity of the form layout. So let's take a closer look at the location section. The location section consists of 4 mandatory questions, which you can identify on screen as they have a red asterisk next to them. The questions are platform train interface, location type, infrastructure manager, and route. Like many other SMIS fields, on-screen guidance is provided to the right of some of the questions to assist you in correctly interpreting each question. The first question in the location section is the platform train interface, or PTI question. A key point to note when answering the PTI question is that you must consider the question for any prior events that have been added, as the PTI is only asked once and so applies to the main event and the prior event if you have added one. The PTI question includes on-screen guidance to help you to decide whether to select yes or whether to select no. The guidance explains that a platform train interface incident involves a person wholly or partially crossing the boundary between the platform and the track, or the platform and the train if there is a train present at the time. It also states that it is not deemed a PTI if a person deliberately crosses the PTI to access the track to commit either trespass or suicide. So let's take the example of a passenger on a station platform who accidentally trips on the station platform and falls onto the track. In this instance, if you apply the PTI definition, you would select yes to the PTI question. You may have noticed a couple of things happen on the screen. When you select yes to this question, you are additionally asked for a platform number, so you can enter the platform number here. Also, a new platform train interface section will appear below the location section, which you can see here on the tree view. So let's quickly go to this platform train interface section, and you will see that 2 further PTI related questions, which are also mandatory, are asked. So you'll need to answer these, and these include train present, which is was a train present when the person crossed the PTI, and the other is was the person using any of the following. So you'll answer based on whether they're using a buggy or pushchair, pram, a wheelchair, or a powered wheelchair or mobility scooter, and if none apply, just select none. The next question in the location section is the location type field, which includes 3 pieces of on-screen guidance to help you to answer the question. These include that the location type is where the event occurred, some around a slip trip falls, which says that if the event was a slip trip fall, to set the location to where the fall ended if different from where it started. And then also incidents of onboard trains, where it says to use a train location type for events that occur on board a train or for train surfing events. So the location type field has a list of 20 different location types that are available to select. So I'm just going to go through some of the more commonly used ones now. So we have running line. Running line should be selected for events that occur on the running line, so a person on the running line, including those involving train operations, such as things like a buffer stop collision at a station, you would use running line, things like station overruns on the running line, trains being wrongly routed, but excluding personal accidents on board a train, where, like the guidance on screen says, you would select train as a location type. The next commonly used location is station. So if you're a station operator and an event occurs on the managed station, then you would use this location type. One important thing to note here and to remember is that for anything that occurs trackside of the platform, the location type should be selected as running line or train if a person was on board a train. So for the previous example that I gave you about a passenger on the station platform that slips onto the running line, selecting the end location of running line in this instance is the correct option. So it's just important to note that. Then we also have yard, depot and siding, so that's for any accidents or incidents that occur on a yard, depot or siding, so off the running line. And level crossing, so the level crossing option, that can be used when people incorrectly use a level crossing, or say for example a near miss on a level crossing, you would use a level crossing. Also people being injured when using the level crossing, you would use the location type of level crossing. We have bridge or viaduct. Bridge or viaduct is primarily used for bridge strike events, say when a car or a lorry crashes into a railway bridge. And finally, another commonly used location type is road. So road should be used for accidents or incidents that occur on public highways, such as those where a member of workforce is injured in a road traffic accident. So depending on which location type you select, you will be presented with one of 3 different ways to enter the location details. So I'm going to go and demonstrate these next. So I'm going to go through the first example of how you can enter the location information. So the first example is when you select the location type of either running line or train. So you only can enter the location details this way if you select running line or train. So the question that appears when you select these options is, how is the running line location given? So you can either enter the details as at a single location or between 2 locations. So if you know the exact location of an event, you would select at a single location. And you have 2 options here, and these are either entering the information by ELR, which is engineer's line reference, and mileage, and the mileage is in miles. Or if you don't have these details, you can also select the location at a single point by railway asset. So a station would be such a railway asset. So if you knew it occurred at a station, you could select the station. And then if you don't know the exact single location of an event, so you can enter the location as between 2 locations. And again, you can do this by ELR and mileage or by railway assets. So I'm quickly going to go through an example of when you would enter between two locations by railway asset. So an example of this would be, say, a train driver witnesses a person trespassing on the line, and he doesn't know the exact location, but knows that it's somewhere between Milton Keynes and Wolverton Station. So without knowing this specific mileage, you could enter the location in this instance as between two locations by railway asset. The primary asset would be station, and say the first station was Milton Keynes. You could enter the first location there, and the secondary asset type, we'll say it's station again, and you would select Wolverton. And this is how you would record between two locations if you didn't know the exact location of where an event occurred. The second way to enter location details is simply by an asset list. So when the location type equals bridge or viaduct, coastal estuarine or river defense, control center, culvert, level crossing, retaining wall, signal box, station, tunnel, or yard depot siding, you'll be presented with a list of assets. So this is the yard depot siding asset list, and then what you do is you click on it, and then you type the location of the yard depot or siding. So I'll use the example of Airdrie carriage sidings. So if I start typing Airdrie, the option should appear, which you can select on, and that's the job done. If you find that a location isn't available on an expected asset list, here's what you do. You would go to the RSSB service desk, click on Request a Service, and here you would select a SMIS asset update. And you can enter the asset details for the asset that you need added. The third and final way to enter location details is via a map. This generally exists for locations that are not on the mainline railway. So these include things like a car park, although just a note about car park, if it's a station car park that's primarily used for people using the station, then you can select station as a location type. And then under station area, we also have the option of car park. So this is for ones that aren't necessarily related to station operations. So car park, we also have offices for workforce injured in offices. And there is other, which you can select if there is nothing available on the list and it's somewhere that isn't on the main railway infrastructure. And then finally, we have road. So in this example, selected road, and what you then get to do is you get answered, where did the event occur? And this is where you can click and select the location on the map. So I've said that it happened on the M4 just outside of Bristol at junction 19, so you can select it on the map. And you also get the opportunity to put in the location type's name or reference. It's optional, so you don't have to, but I'm going to say in this case it was junction 19. So this is an example of entering locations via the map. Finally, on to the last two mandatory fields in the location section. These are infrastructure manager and route. So firstly, the infrastructure manager. So this means which organization manages the infrastructure where the event occurred. So for running lines, so events occurring on the running line, the IM will always be the infrastructure manager for the track area. This includes when entering the infrastructure manager details for an event that occurs on a train. So when you select the location type of train. In most cases, the infrastructure manager in this instance will be Network Rel, although there are exceptions to this, such as in Wales, where AMI Infrastructure Wales Limited are the infrastructure manager on the core valley lines. If an event occurs in a yard, a depot, or a siding, this is the same as above for running line. However, the infrastructure manager in these instances might be different from simply being Network Rel, as these sites and locations are often managed by train operating companies and freight operating companies. So again, it's the infrastructure manager for the yard, depot, or the siding. For stations, the infrastructure manager would be the station operator. I'll quickly show you what to do if you're unsure who a station operator is. You can visit www.nationalrail.co.uk. If you go to this stations and on trains tab, you can enter a station name here. So I'll enter, in this instance, I'll do Swindon. You click on it. And you'll see here that it tells you who it's managed by, and in this instance, it would be Great Western Railway. You can then select the organisation from the drop-down list from the available SMIS organisations. And finally, we have the route field. The route is a Network Rel derived field. Routes form part of the 5 Network Rel regions, which you can see if you go to Network Rel's website and select routes. So here on the routes web page, you can see the 5 regions, which include Eastern, North, West and Central, Scotland's Railway, Southern and Wales and Western. So each of these regions is further subdivided into routes, which you can see here. So for Eastern, you've got Anglia, East Midlands, North East, East Coast. You've got Northwest, Central, West Coast route. Scotland's Railways is just Scotland route. Southern is Kent, Sussex, Wessex and Network Rail High Speed. And then for Wales and Western, there's Wales and Western. So if you're unsure where a location is, visit this page and you can try and identify which route the event occurred on. If you're still unsure what route to select after referring to the route map, you can also get in touch with your counterpart on the Network Rail safety reporting team, or if you don't have a contact, you can also contact RSSB and the service desk and ask one of us to find out for you. And you just select the route by clicking on the drop down and selecting the appropriate one. Thank you for watching the locations video. Now have a go at taking the quiz and test your knowledge. See you next time.